Hello, welcome to Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. My name is Daniel Cott. I'm delighted, as always, to be joined by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, have you recovered from that?
Oh, mate, I don't know anymore, Dan. I said to you last week that sooner or later this whole season's going to have to be diagnosed as clinically insane, and there's more proof of it today. Astonishing game at Falkirk. Rangers didn't turn up for it. They didn't turn up for the work. They ended up 2 goals down. Maybe fortunate that it didn't get a little bit worse than that. They didn't show anything like the sort of levels you would be expecting from a Rangers side with the importance that was on that game today. And then all of a sudden, they get one back before half-time, and then they come out a different team for the second half. And absolutely blow Falkirk away and put on the kind of performance that makes you think, wow, they really are credible challengers after all. So you've gone the full thing there. You know what, with the weather like these days, where you get 4 seasons in about 2 hours, that was a Rangers team that came out to start the game that's nowhere near championship winning level, and yet a Rangers team that finish it looking like they could blow everybody else out of their way. So what are you supposed to make it, Daniel? I don't know. I don't know. And it's just, at the end, and this is only the second weekend all season that the main 3 protagonists have taken full points at the same time from the same round of fixtures. So yeah, I did say to you that I felt that would be the case. I did feel that all 3 teams would get a win this weekend, just because of the significance of it all and the importance of going into the split with a bit of momentum. And by hook or by crook, all 3 of them managed to do it.
Absolutely. And I should say that I caught up with Record Sports' Andy Newport, who was at the Falkirk Stadium today. He really, you'll see it later on, but he really battled the weather to join us, Keith. It was pretty comical. It was almost like he was in the middle of a tornado. So we'll hear from him. We'll also hear from Danny Rowe and John McGlynn, as well as Derek McInnes and Jens Bertalascu. But maybe to start, Keith, we've got so many comments coming in already. They're pouring in, and if you want to get involved, please do so. Let me throw a few of these at you. Your little Muppet says, great reaction from us today. Go back 6 months, this team would have crumbled after being 2-0 down, but now we have the confidence and goal scorers all over the pitch. Michael says, unbeaten in the league since mid-December, 16 games, scored 15 goals in the last 4 games. Chermiti and Miovski both in the goals. The other 2 haven't scored, 15 in 4 games between them. Rangers Easy OK says, that's the mark of champions. We score the first goal, and when we play like the second half, no one will live with us in the split. The team have been slaughtered for their mentality, but they answered that today. Is that fair comment?
They did go 2-0 down.
True. And they were rotten in that first half.
Yeah, so it was a schizophrenic sort of Rangers performance today, but there's no doubt, that second half performance, they are capable of battering teams. That maybe they got to grips with the conditions better in the second half, played it a bit more simple. Certainly the switching, putting 2 strikers in Miovski and Chermiti on made a difference. And what a difference it makes when you've got strikers that score goals, Dan. And I know I've been banging on about this for a while, but a couple of weeks ago I suggested that Nadiri might be the best bet for Rangers because he looks like he's more likely to score goals. He makes better runs for me. But at that time, I think I said if Celtic or Rangers can get a striker that can score 6, 7 goals over the course of the run-in, they've got a chance, either side. And there you go. Today, Chermiti gets 2, Miovski gets 2. Gives you an opportunity, doesn't it? And goal scoring is going to be so critical. And I know that's a very base, obvious thing to say. Of course it is. And it is good for Rangers. They're getting goals from all over the pitch. That certainly helps. But I come back to it. I'm a great believer in you need a striker that you can rely upon. You need a guy in that dressing room. When you look around before you go, you go, good. We get the ball to him. We've got a real chance here today. And for Chermiti to get a couple today, massive for him. And he took them both really well. The first one was a terrific finish. But for Miovski to come on off the bench, help himself to a couple, that's 3 goals now in his last 2 games. So all of a sudden, there's goal scorers putting their hand up here. And that's significant. I think one of the most significant things for Rangers certainly today, but it could be going forward. If Nico Raskin continues to play like that, then I'm not sure there's a midfielder in the country that can live with him. Nico's biggest problem is that he's convinced himself that he's a number 6. He wants to sit in between the centre half, split them, thread passes, sort of conduct the traffic for the middle of the pitch. When Raskin, and he was forced to do that today, his hand was forced because Rangers found themselves in that position, and he took the handbrake off and he get forward. And when he gets forward, he's a real handful. He's a real problem. I think he had a hand in 4 of the 6 goals and scored 1. So there are 5 goals. He scored 1, helped create 4 others. That's what Nico Raskin can bring. But somebody's going to have a word with him, i.e. the manager, and tell him, you need to play further up the pitch. And Rangers have got the option now because they've got Conor Barron fit again. Chukwani, sorry, is more than capable in the middle of the pitch in a more defensive role. I would like for Rangers, if I'm looking at what their best chances are in this running, I think if they get Nico Raskin playing that bit further forward, that's what Barry Ferguson did last season.
Yeah,
I was just going through the stats there, and up until Barry Ferguson went into that position, I think he had 34 games for Rangers with 1 goal, and then over Barry Ferguson's 14 games under Barry Ferguson, Nico Raskin played. He scored 4. And forced his way into the Belgian national side.
Aye, into Belgians too.
So yeah, I think that could be key. It certainly his performance today. He was outstanding, wasn't he?
Aye, he was all over the place today. He was brilliant.
There was also, just before you move on, there was also a moment which I think was really significant, and that was Gassama took a solo one over by the dugout. I think it was Tate was late on him. And Raskin, and it's just a little thing, but Raskin was right over and he was right in Tate's face. And I think he got booked for it. It started a bit of a scuffle, handbags moment. But see that togetherness, that bit of team spirit, that standing up for your teammate. I think that's key for any team. If you're going to win a title, you need to be like a band of brothers in these situations. And I just think that the little moments today from Raskin, that when Rangers were really faced with a potentially catastrophic afternoon, he stood up and he dragged them through.
No, I mean, I couldn't disagree. As I say, we will hear from Andy Newport in just a wee minute. But honestly, Keith, we've got so many comments coming in. Let me just throw a couple of these at you. AF Scott says, Bar Chukwani, that was a Russell Martin team today. What a difference. This league comes down to firepower. There's only one winner in this run-in. And Bengal cheekily asked, does Keith still think Hearts have the most firepower?
Yeah, I do. Because in Bragg and Shankland, I think they've got the best strike force, the best pairing. Look, as I said to you, of course it's good if you've got goals from all over the team. And look, if Chermiti and Miovski have timed this right, and they're now going to step up and become regular scorers, then Rangers have got a real chance. Of course they do. But if you just look back over the course of the season, what is it that Shankland and Bragg have got between them now? Something like 34 goals between them.
Something like that,
aye. So you know that kind of that stat alone would tell you where the goals are.
Yeah. Well, look, let's have a listen to Andy Newport, who was at the Falkirk Stadium today. I should say up front, Keith, it gets a little bit comical with the wind. Like I say, it was like he was in the middle of a cyclone or something like that. But I thought, fair play to Andy for braving the conditions. And let's have a listen. Joined on Hotline Live now from a wet and windy Falkirk Stadium by the one and only Andy Newport. Andy, I'm lost for words at that game today. It was remarkable second half.
The Rangers were very nearly gone with the wind after 26 minutes. You like that, Daniel?
That was good,
yeah, I mean, what a game. Ridiculous game of football, frankly. Rangers for 40 minutes really were awful. Slow, ponderous, weak, lacked fight, lacked intensity. Every sort of negative trait that we've seen of this Rangers team over the years wrapped up into one sort of 40-minute performance. And at that point, and I was sitting next to Scott McDermott, we really did think that this was the end of the road for this season's title bid, given Rangers would have to come back here on the final day of the season. I think if this is the way they're going to perform here, having been very meek, if you remember back to October for Russell Martin's last stand, you just really couldn't you couldn't see them turning it around. But they obviously got a go back through Tochi Chukwueze just before half. Wee bit of unravelling with VAR to make sure that the ball hadn't gone out of play. I'm not sure we actually ever got a definitive on that. I think they've just went, there's no an angle to say it definitely went out of the park, so they're going to give it.
I thought it stayed in for what it's worth. I
saw a couple of replays, but to be honest, obviously we're trying to look at it. You've got a bit of sort of glare on the screen on my laptop. I haven't seen it back for definite. But listen, whatever Danny Rowe said at half time, he was. It worked a treat because they came out and it was a totally different Rangers team. They played with intensity, they played with hunger, they played with pace, they played with aggression. They won tackles, they won headers, and more than that, they looked like they were a team that wanted to win a title, and they went after the game and they thoroughly deserved a tremendous victory that I think now says a lot about this team, and it might just answer a few of the critics who have wondered if this is a Rangers team that have got the firepower to score. I think that's now 14 goals in the last 3 games, 9 different scorers. Wow. And I know there's a lot of gnashing of teeth amongst the Rangers support this week with the news that Ryan Adiri is going to potentially miss the remainder of the season. But the fact that finally Yusuf Chermiti comes to the party in terms of scoring goals, although he had a really bad first half. I must say he was as bad as any in the first half.
That missing the first half was wild.
Yeah, and the 3-on-2, which I think was even more criminal, was he had a chance to play. I think it was Mikey Moore down the left, and he chose to pass for Gassama, but played the ball straight to a Falkirk jersey. I think at that point there was, 90%, 99% of the Rangers fans would have had him hooked at that point. But fair play to Danny Rowe. Whatever he did at half time, it worked. As I say, they got the goals, and I think it's, as I say, 14 goals in 3 games, 9 different scorers. I think if they can play at that, if they play with that second half version, if that's the version we see of Rangers in the final 5 games, I think they've got as good a chance as any of the 3 contenders to win the league. That was much more like it, but the warning is there for them. If they play like they did for the opening 40 minutes, they'll win nothing this season.
Yeah, I mean, to come out and win that second half 5-1, Andy, I mean, Bojan Miovski was another one, aside from Chermiti. I was pretty impressed with him. It looked like the Miovski from his Aberdeen days. Yeah,
I mean, I just think having 2 strikers up there was what helped in the second half. The fact that they had service, that they didn't really create much at all in the first half, but the fact that they had 2 proper number 9s up there to occupy the Falkirk centre backs and just not give them a minute's peace, and really do to Falkirk what Falkirk did to Rangers in the first half, and that was just to give the centre backs something to worry about. They could never be comfortable, they could never settle on the ball. Falkirk had the wind in the first half, as we spoke about earlier. It's cut you in 2, and Nasser Giga and Manny Fernandez never looked settled at all on the ball, because it was always bobbling about. There was always people about them. That's what Rangers were able to do in the second half. But I thought, there's, I was doing the ratings for the paper, for tomorrow's paper, and it was like, you may as well have done 2 versions. You might have done a first half and a second half, because you're trying to dish out scores to guys that were awful for 40 minutes and tremendous for the second half. I mean, Chukwueze gets a goal, but was terrible, absolutely terrible for the first half of the game. Raskin didn't really do much at all in the first half, and then turns into a superstar for the second half. I mean, gets himself a goal, gets himself an assist, has a hand in 3 of the other goals as well. I mean, it's Jekyll and Hyde stuff. I mean, it's Danny Rowe might want to hire some sort of psychiatrist, because his team's got a split personality disorder. But if it's the second half performance, the second half Rangers that turns up to the final 5 games of the season, they'll be on with a right chance. If not, if it's the first half, then it might be some disappointment in store for the Rangers faith.
Did you hear from Danny Rowe, Andy, after the game?
Yeah, we did. He was very complimentary. His team, as I said to you, I thought whatever he said at half time was that I assumed he would go in there and dish out a few truths took a few backsides, but I think he said he was quite calm. He gave them some more technical points. He left it to the players themselves to sort of dish out the anger. I think they were the ones that were sort of showing the emotion, and I think he was quite happy with that. He said that after his first game charging the team at Bairns back in October, he had a meeting with the team that he was the guy that was sort of speaking up. In this meeting, that's where they tried to sort out what was going forward. He says, now I've got a squad of men who all want to have a say, all want to stand up and counted, and I think he's seen that in the second half.
He must be pretty confident, Andy, in the last, the running now after the split, with the firepower you mentioned, 14 goals in 3 games, even without Nadiri, he must be pretty confident.
Yeah, and I think again, if it's the second half performance, yeah, he'll be confident that would be enough to get him across the line. But the trouble is with this Rangers team, and we've seen it time and time again, is that they have moments where they switch off. They have moments where they take too long to get going. You think about Limson a month or so ago, where it took them sort of 60 minutes to basically start playing. It was the same again here today. It took them far too long. They're having to score 2, 3 goals, 4 goals, as it was today, to make sure that they can be certain of victory. I think, listen, this comes to the crunch now. Rangers can't afford slip-ups. They have to be at it from minute 1 to minute 90, and the game's going forward, especially the fact, as you say, they've got 3 games away from home, huge games against Hearts at Tynecastle, Celtic at Celtic Park, so they can't afford to have these spells where they just switch off and allow the other teams to sort of dominate and to dictate.
Just very briefly, Andy, before I let you go, I know you were on a double header this weekend. You were at Hearts yesterday.
Yep.
Good performance, and crucially, did you think it was a penalty?
I've just had this very debate with Scott. He said he didn't think it was a penalty. I tend to think it is. I just don't think you can kick somebody in the head and get away with it. Okay, there might not be much force in it, but I think if somebody's lying on the ground, you've got a duty of care not to kick them in the head. So, so I do think it was. Listen, I think Jens Bertheuascu will be disgruntled about that. I think he called it soft after the game, but I think what he should be far more unhappy with is the chances that Motherwell missed, because they had 3 huge opportunities even after Hearts had equalised to go and retake the lead. None better than Tawanda Maswihise's
that was an incredible
opportunity. It would have been a goal of the season contender, because he's given Craig Halkett the slip. He's then sat Oyson McIntyre in his backside. All he has to do is pick his spot, and he drags a horrible finish wide of target. And so for me, that's the bigger. That would be the bigger frustration for all. But for Hearts, listen, they found a way to win. There was only talk before the game about the fact they'd had these 4 successive 1-0 wins at home. I think if they'd won 1-0 yesterday, it would have been the first time in SPFL history that a team had won 5 home games by the same scoreline. Some stat like that was doing the rounds, but the fact is that sorry, the camera's about flowing here. They cemented it, and obviously it's stoppage time. So Hearts are still in there fighting. A lot of people question whether or not they had or whether or not their ball was going to crash after that performance in Livingston last week. Celtic again find a way to win without playing great. Again, it's just set up for a absolutely gripping sort of run.
Andy, before you get blown away, I'll let you get up the road. Thanks so much for joining us on the Hotline Live. Safe travels.
Thanks, Daniel.
I thought it was better, Keith, to play it than bin it, because such a good guy, Andy. Fair play to him for coming on, but the wind was a bit mad.
Yeah, but listen, I think we heard. Do you know? Unfortunately, one of the noisiest bits there when the wind. I think what he was saying was talking about Danny Rowe, saying that when he first took over, the team was really quiet inside the dressing room. They were a quiet bunch. They were, were obviously on a real low at the time, but there wasn't much noise or sort of energy inside the dressing room. And I think Danny Rowe, the point that Andy was making there was that at half-time today, the players sorted it out between themselves. The players said this isn't good enough. The players made demands of one another. inside that dressing room. That does point to a very different mentality from the one which was previously there, and which was obviously such a negative for Rangers. You looked at that team, you just couldn't see them, how that group of players would become winners. Well, I think today you saw a really good response from them, and again, I think Nico Raskin was the embodiment of that. That was a wee guy out there today that just simply wasn't prepared to accept a defeat, and that's not always been the case with this group of players. So, yep, I think Rangers can be very, very pleased with their afternoon's work, and they do. That is the sort of result and performance that will give you a little bit of momentum now, kicking on into these last 5 games. But it is Jekyll and Hyde Rangers, aren't they? So we'll need to see what Rangers side turns up for the remaining games. The first one's obviously at home to Motherwell. Motherwell made a real game of that, as we knew they would at Tynecastle. As Andy says there, Maswanisi's probably got to score that chance. There is a big debate about whether or not it should have been a penalty kick. But Motherwell, to me, I just wonder if they're running out of steam a little bit now at this part of the season. And obviously, they're next up for Rangers at Ibrox. So that gives Rangers the chance to start the split with 3 points.
Yeah.
And you just don't know what you're going to get from the other two at that point. So, yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, Motherwell, just while we're on that, Motherwell, it's only 3 wins in the last 10 games now, and no wins in 5. So I think it's probably a fair call to say they're maybe running out of steam.
They've just been so good. They've been so good. They've been
incredible.
But if there was a stage in the season where you might fancy your chances against them, it's more so at this point than it has been at any point previous to this over the course of the campaign. So that's a fixture that gives Rangers the chance to start off on the front foot in the post-split fixtures. Absolutely, it is.
Yeah, we mentioned Danny Rowe there. We can actually hear from him now, and Falkirk manager John McGlynn. I promise there's not as much wind in these clips, Keith, but let's have a listen.
Danny, was that the reaction you're looking for at half time?
I must say I'm first proud of the group, of the players. I think we bring ourselves a little bit in trouble in the first couple of minutes. You felt we need a little bit time to adjust to the pitch, how the ball bounces, and then you are 2-0 down, and then it's tough against the opponent. They have quality, they have attacking stuff, they know what they have to do. But then I think the 2-1 was very helpful before the half time, and we were honest to each other in the half time, and especially I like the players were honest to each other, and it helps. For me, it was more about to give them some instruction and solutions. In second half, then I think we played in one direction. General in 3 games now, 14 goals, nine different goal scorer. I think this is also a statement, it's also part. Of course, you have to speak about the conceded goals. It was especially beginning too easy. All in all, great to see the group in this way.
In those moments at half time, is that when you show your own emotion, you show some anger, or is it better to be calm and composed?
Well, it was not necessary to give too many emotions inside, because my player was very emotional. They spoke to each other. That shows as well that we're growing as a group, that we are in the right moments. We have leaders in the group. For me, it was more important to give them, on the one side, also the belief and the trust in what we are doing. And the second part was about what we have to adjust. I think we changed a little bit the pressing then, not too much. I think when you watch the game, then maybe you will not see everything in this direction. It was a small thing. We were not consequent in the counter pressing, and then we allowed the opponent too many long balls in behind. I think it was better.
Quite simply, we gave Rangers a lifeline and they took it. We were 2 goals up, and I was kind of coasting in the game. And they hit the post with a shot, Scott Taylor, one other save to make. And we were very, very comfortable in the game. Scored a good goal through Ambrosia. And Finley hits a really, really good strike for the second goal. And I felt we were in kind of control most of it. But it turns on the goal the Rangers get back, which initially comes from a free kick that we give away. at least a corner kick. We don't defend it. You know, players are claiming for the ball being new, and they've not got a clue if the ball's out or not. And so we've got to defend it. It's bad defending. You know, we don't defend it. We've got opportunities to go and defend it. We just didn't compete for the ball at all. We may be a little bit lucky when the ball was headed back across. It hits off the post and lands at a lad's foot, and then obviously put it in the back of the net. And it's a lifeline. And it's one that we've not reacted to. Rangers have reacted to it, and we lose cheap goals. We cannot lose the challenge on Gassama at either at the edge of the box or just inside the box on the sort of dugout side. We allow that. A couple of bites at the cherry to win the challenge. It's criminal that we don't. Most of the goals after that come from us trying to play through the eye needle, through the middle of the pitch, higher up, and getting caught in transition. There's a great strike from the right hand side going across, and then we concede cheap goals. You know, fair play to Rangers, they stepped up in the second half, and we were found wanting, and even getting the goal back, give ourselves a little bit, you know, hope in the game. We couldn't keep that narrow scoreline any longer, and the gap gets bigger again. And so it's a hard one for us. It's you know, painful for us. We've done, you know, so well, and we've, you know, taken so many plaudits and compliments. But today we have to take our medicine and bounce back for next week.
John, is that you're talking about trying to play through an eye needle? Was that the thing that frustrates you most, given the way that the first half you were so good at stretching Rangers wide and creating spaces for yourself that you could play in?
Exactly. You know, spot on. Exactly. We did. I mean, Barney made some great runs and got on end of times. He goes up the park, and exactly that. We tried to play through the middle of the pitch, gave up possession, and we're hit in transition. It's hitting you in the face. It was so glaring. And we, you know, now on the end of a heavy defeat due to that. Yeah, it's too soft. I mean, the goals, they're getting tap-ins in the middle of the goal. Our defenders are in the areas. I mean, after the first goal, the one still on the same side as that's where the first goal comes from. Again, we've no real power or strength in the challenge. Two players to block the ball gets in, and they stand in the middle of the goal with a tap in. It's too simple.
See that fight you saw in the players at half time, Danny, is that something that's developed? Was that not there when you arrived here at first?
I would not say, there was quite. I think I can remember after the game in Bergen, I tried to start a conversation with the players, but finally I spoke more than the players, and now we growing, but this is normal. Yeah, this is the culture what we want. I think very often you ask me about mentality. I think there was a good statement that this topic we do not speak about mentality. We come back and I think after 20 minutes, 25 minutes, maybe in some places or different mode, but we believed we were structured. That is before the game, focus on our own, and this is what we did today. Focus.
Danny, in terms of the goal, we feel as if you're finding firepower at exactly the right time.
Yeah, general 14 goals. It's nice to have in 3 games. I think that shows a lot. It was not so far away. We spoke about who can score, who cannot score. Now we have 9 different goal scorers. That helps, and maybe at the end it could be also a difference to the other 2 teams at the minute, and that's what I like. But I also like to have clean sheets.
Do you think that could make a difference in the title race, Danny? You're talking about these 14 goals, you scored 6 today. You now have an advantage as well in the conference table. The points so close. Do you think that could be the difference, the firepower?
Could be. Nobody knows at the moment in which direction it goes. You can enjoy your stories until the end, and we do our job to be part of the story.
Right, Keith, to round off on Rangers, we've got some of these comments I need to throw at you. Rangers fans are getting very excited in the comments. John says, win the next 3 and it's Rangers for the title. John says, I think Rangers have the edge in this title race. Alex says, we have this, Rangers. Easy win at Tynecastle and Parkhead. However, Marzuno is hitting back saying, are all the wee bears in the Buckfast today? Talk about getting carried away. And John says, enjoy your win and come back today, Teddy Bears. You just know that your team will let you down eventually. Where do you stand on that?
Look, I've not been convinced by Rangers for, well, over the course of this season. They are showing signs of improvement. They're showing signs of a far better mentality. And obviously that was encapsulated over 90 minutes today. I'm not convinced by them. They don't look, and I've said this consistently, they don't look like a championship winning team. What did we say? If we rewind this whole thing, we go back to January, we said that the January window was going to be so important because Rangers didn't have a championship winning squad. Not for me, not in January. The problem that the Rangers have now got is they did buy quite well in January, but 3 of the players that they brought in to make the difference are injured. Sorry, two of the 4 are injured, and 2 Romans and Nadiri, and a third one in Skov Olsen. He hasn't turned up yet. I don't know what he's waiting for. Obviously, couldn't even get on the pitch today. So when you strip it all back, Rangers have pretty much got the same squad as they had going into January. But 2 Romans, I think they expect should be back for the home game against Motherwell. If not that, then he should be fit for the away game at Hearts. So that's going to make a big difference in terms of the left back position. I don't know. I'm not convinced. And it's one of the main reasons that this thing swings, isn't it, on a week-to-week basis. Somebody gets a result, you think, oh, well, that's them. They've got the momentum now. But Hearts just keep on plodding away. They keep on posting points on the board. They remain in first place. And I come back to the fact that, they've got 2 strikers who know where the goal is. You could rely on Shankland and Braga to continue to score goals. The question that Rangers have got to answer now is, can they rely on Chermiti and Miovski over this same period? Look, I don't know, Dan. I don't know what to make of it. As I said, the whole thing's just gone round a loop, innit? It's mental stuff we're getting. But it's brilliant. I mean, you just cannot take your eyes off it. It's a brilliant watch. Yes, look, are we talking about the 3 best teams we've ever seen in the Scottish top flight history? Far from it. Far from it. Miles from that. But you know what? It's like a boxing match, a fight between 2 guys that aren't particularly great. It can still be a great fight to watch. And that's what we've got here with us. Look, it might well be that somebody ends up winning it by default in the end. For me, I think Hearts are the most deserving of the teams. But whether or not they can hold it together into this, the last 5 games remains to be seen. You've got comments there, if Rangers win at Tynecastle and Celtic Park, that's it, the league's over. Well, yeah, I think that would become pretty obvious. I think what Rangers need to do is beat Motherwell, and then if they can avoid defeat at Tynecastle and Celtic Park, they're in a really strong position. Now, whether that's 2 draws or whether it's a draw and a defeat, a draw and a victory, either way, whatever way you shape it up, they'd be in a pretty strong position going into the final dash to the line, wouldn't they?
Yep. Well, you can see on your screen there, Rebel says Rangers look better than Hearts to me, Keith, and they did gob them last time out. This one said, Givaldo says you can't rely on that Hearts midfield and fullbacks at the moment, Keith. McKenna says if Rangers give Hearts a 2-goal start, they'll be beaten. We have a better defence than Falkirk. And AF Scott says, why would you be more convinced with Hearts than Rangers, given the form guide and Rangers score way more goals than Hearts?
Look, they're all valid points. We're playing pin the tail on the donkey stuff here, aren't we? Because nobody actually really knows. And I think the Rangers stats, they are piling up. They are quite impressive. 14 goals in 3 games. But I think over the last 7 league games now, it's 23. 23 goals scored over the last 7 league games. Since I think it was the 4-2 win over Hearts at Ibrox. So that is impressive. They're getting there. I keep coming back to it. I'm yet to see a team win a title without a fully functioning firing striker. But if Chermiti and Majorski are going to come late to the party, then again it would feed into the narrative that Rangers could come out on top at the end of this. Celtic, I don't know where we're at. I don't know where we're at with this Celtic team. Martin O'Neill actually looked pretty worried. It sounded pretty worried after, that was, the essential thing was Celtic needed to get the win against St Mirren. That was the be all and end all was the result. But they kind of dropped off it again, and it's not for the first time that you've seen Celtic. Celtic are playing, they're not even playing for full 45 minutes. They're playing for patches in 45 minutes. And it's really difficult for them it seems to be really difficult for them to put on a strong performance over the course of 90 minutes. And I think that was what Martin O'Neill was sounding worried about after the game at the weekend. But we said the energy levels just dropped off. Energy levels can't just drop off at this stage in such a nip and tuck campaign. Celtic have to dig deep and come up with something a lot more convincing than that if they are to hang on to this title, and they desperately want to do that. So energy levels, that shouldn't be a concern.
Davey in the comments says, it was a Celtic win, but for me, we look the least likely to go on and win the league. We cannot score enough goals. I mean, I would counter that by saying, would you be that surprised after the next round of fixtures to say, oh, do you know what? Actually, it kind of looks like it might be Celtic again. Like you say, there's no predicting this. It's absolutely
crazy. It's crazy. It's mean, see, if you want to apply logic to this, you're probably coming at it from the wrong angle. Forget logic. Get it, put it in the bin, and just watch. Because there's no. It's really, and it's making us all look a bit daft, isn't it? Because we're trying to make predictions. I'm sticking to Hearts because that's what I said some time ago, and they remain in pole position for as long as they do. This is Grand National weekend. Hearts have been running from the front for some considerable period. I know that they get knocked off their perch for 24 hours last weekend, but you've got to hand it to them, and that's why I'm full of praise for them. That's why I say I think they're the most deserving of the three clubs, because at some points in this season, Celtic and Rangers have taken it upon themselves to shoot themselves in the foot, whether it's managerial appointments, whether it's transfer windows, incredible bad decision making at the kind of command centres of both clubs. Hearts have thrown down the gauntlet, and it's to their immense credit that now, as we go into the split, 5 games to go, they are still there. They're still top of the pile.
John says in the comments, I predicted Falkirk take points today. I was convinced.
Yes, you did, Daniel.
I was convinced. And do you know what? After about 40 minutes, I was feeling pretty good about that prediction.
I tell you what, when it goes 2-0, I bet you're sitting there feeling very chuffed with yourself. Because, by the way, nobody watching that match thinks Rangers come back from 2.
Aye.
One looked as if it was going to be a struggle. At 2-0, you think at the very most Rangers are going to get for this game is a 2-2 draw. That was the absolute optimum. Nobody could have saw what actually happened coming. Nobody saw that coming.
Aye, no chance. And just I put up the league table a wee minute ago there, but Luke Skywalker saying Celtic's goal difference will come back to haunt them. I mean, you look at that, there are 11 goals.
It's effectively another point, isn't it?
Aye, basically, aye.
And that's so as much as we're saying that it's not predictable, this isn't rocket science. We all sat and watched open-mouthed at Celtic's lack of activity in the transfer windows. We've all looked at it and said, how is it possible to sell your top striker in Kyogo and not have a replacement lined up? How is it possible to then go into the summer window and sell his understudy and leave yourself with nobody?
It's crazy.
And then, Ian Atchell looks as if he could be a contributor here, but Ian Atchell was a guy that was scrubbing about, couldn't get a club. And Celtic managed to go and get him after the window had closed. This is all so obvious. It's so right in front of your nose. And that's why we talked before the weekend, the Green Brigade going back into Celtic Park. Great thing for the sort of atmosphere and the sort of match day experience at Celtic. Great. But if this all blows up, if the wheels come off at any point, I'm afraid that you can expect a savage reaction from the supporters. And it's for all these reasons. They have been let down. Martin O'Neill's been let down. Brendan Rodgers was let down. And the reason that Celtic are struggling so badly to score goals is that they're trying to operate without a fit, functioning number 9. And I know I sound like a broken record, Dan, but it's absolutely critical to your chances of winning anything.
Aye. Marzino points out 1 goal from open play all season for Iheanacho. It was that winning against Dundee just last week. Before we finish, Keith, I teased a little bit earlier on that we would hear from Derek McInnes and Jens Bertolascu. It got a little bit spicy in the post-match presser yesterday. Shall we have a listen?
Yes, please.
Let's have a listen.
I'm asking you, do you think we were lucky today? I've spoken to more than a few title-winning managers, and they've all said sometimes it's better being lucky than good. Do you think at times you need that?
Do you think we were lucky today?
No, do you think it's sometimes you need that?
I'm asking you, do you think we were lucky today?
I thought they squandered 3 gilt-edged opportunities.
That's not luck, that's bad play on them.
No, absolutely. But my
again,
point is...
Again, no, they had some good moments, and it was in that spell, but we feel that we were good enough in the game to win it. When you're 1-0 down, there's also been a lot of teams that have won a championship who have to dig it out and get results and find a way to win when the question's hanging over, and the question was hanging over our team today, and they've dragged themselves, and for all reasons I've just said, I'm not going to repeat, but we scored 3 goals against a Motherwell team who don't normally lose a lot of goals. So I think by scoring 3 goals, we've more than deserved to win the game, and there was nothing lucky about it. There's no doubt the last 5 games they're going to be dramatic and full of... Well, I feel the weight of responsibility to try every team we pick, to try and get my players in the best form possible. When you come so far in the season with 5 games to go, it's difficult to keep going to the well and getting those performances. That's why the squad is so important for us, and we've got no bit of troubles to see in terms of injuries at the minute. But it pleases me no end that Braga Shankland score again and Kabori gets a goal. So it shows we've still got that goals, and I think we're showing a bit more of an attacking threat. And I think getting Finlay back will help us defensively. But we were at times Motherwell test your organisation the whole game. They've got good players. They've had a lot of plaudits for a lot of reasons. We won't have to play them again. Falkirk, who are a great side, Rangers and Celtic and Hibs. So they're brilliant games to be involved in. For us to get 70 points at this stage of the season, I think it's the first time in 20 years a Hearts team have finished the seasons in 70 points, and we've still got 5 games to go. There's been a lot of people deserve a lot of praise for getting the club to where it's at now, but the players are the biggest factors in all of that. And the day when it was easy to kind of just, for all reasons just said, 5 of them not really starting for a long time, players a bit rusty, probably just maybe running out of gas. If anybody thought that, the answer was there. They just smashed you right between the eyes and get the win, 3-1. Job done, brilliant. As it normally does get done at Tynecastle, we normally get the job done.
And obviously we need to take the moments, and that's the disappointing thing now. Looking at that scoreboard out there, that it should have been the other way because we had the opportunities, and then obviously the game at some point suddenly gets decided by a moment that is. Yeah, I think it's a shame for the game that it gets decided like that.
What did you make of the Bennington decision?
I think you can argue every time there's contact that there's a foul. Then it's about the amount of contact, the speed of contact, the situation. I don't know what he's gonna win if there's no contact from lying down and dribbling with his head inside the box. But that's you can argue that, and when he's decided that that's going to lead that is a penalty, you know, it's hard, but I think it's very soft. But yeah, that's not, it's out of my hands, so there's nothing we can do about it. And then from there, obviously, it became difficult because it was so late in the game to counter it, and then obviously becomes very direct, a little bit frantic, which is not necessarily in our favour. But what I want to underline again is that I'm really proud of our performance. Results-wise, we haven't come from our best run. There's been some good performances along the way. There has been some things that has not gone our way. But I really think we took control of a very difficult game against a very good team who are really good at what they do, who have an atmosphere that really pushes them and drives them. and can get you emotionally unstable if you're not there. I think we dealt with that extremely well. I think some of the play we set up in the second half, leading to our chances, also the goal, was absolutely outstanding. And I'm, as I said, extremely disappointed, especially on the players' behalf and the fans.
Keith McInnes says McInnes is sticking up for his team. What do you expect? But AGSC Tech says McInnes is getting a bit too emotional. He won't go over the line being emotional and snapping back like that. He was furious, wasn't he? He was raging at that suggestion.
No, I'm all for it. Look, it's all part of the kind of drama and the intrigue around this. Of course, people are going to get emotional. It's an emotional sport. If you're not getting emotional, then you're in the wrong business. Yes, managers have a responsibility to keep a lid on it and check on their emotions, but I don't think that was over the top there.
No, I agree. No, there was nothing wrong with
that. Standing his ground, standing up for his players. And do you know something? He's gone into bat for his players on more than one occasion this season. And that, to me, is good, strong man management. Because in that dressing room, these boys know this guy's got our back. This guy will go out there and defend us and stand up for us. And that, in turn, gives them that responsibility and the onus upon them to go out and do it for him when they get the chance. And everything that Hearts have done to get to this stage, they've got just about spot on. And look, I saw a couple of comments there that you'll hear the sound of breaking glass because Derek McInnes is a Baltimore. Look, let's be fair, guys. Derek McInnes has never been in a level fight for a title at any point. He got close with Aberdeen, but that wasn't. There was no parity there financially or anything else. It was remarkable that Aberdeen were taking the fight to Celtic. But there was no case of bottles crashing. It was simply they didn't have deep enough pockets or a good enough squad to get over the distance, or to go over the course and distance. This is different this season. I'm not saying that Hearts can maintain this level with both Celtic and Rangers once Celtic and Rangers get their houses in order, respectively. I think that'll be hard. But this season, the two of them, as we said, they've made some really bad decisions. There was Russell Martin, there was Wilfred Nancy, and now we've got this. And this opportunity is still there for Hearts. And Derek McInnes, do you know what? If he wants to get a bit feisty, if he wants to show there's fire in his belly, good on him, because I think the players will respond well to that.
I agree, for what it's worth. I completely agree. Before we wrap up, there's one last comment I want to throw at you, Keith. It's from Paul Maguire. He says, hope it rolls on to the last fixtures. Brilliant title race, no matter who you support. And I just want to check. Just checking. We've had another round of fixtures. Are you still on your maroon horse?
Of course, yeah. Did you not listen to anything I've just said over the course of the last hour?
Just checking.
Yeah, and by the way, I do believe that I was on I Am Maximus yesterday, so I might be better than I thought at picking horses.
Nice one. I think that brings us to the end of Sunday night's Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. Thank you very much for the comments. They've been brilliant today, and thanks for watching. Keith, it's always an absolute pleasure.
I'll see you tomorrow then, Dan.
We'll be back at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Hope you can join us then. Thanks for watching.